All sports, all plays. All sports, all plays. All sports, all plays. 365, we making up plays. You talking the game, get you through the days. We're high in the court, the dime in the lane. Variety topics, living the same. All presentation, sports information. Hitting the airways, taking the nation. All sport, all plays, like working your faces. Grace at the field, so tie the laces. All sports, all plays.
All right, what is up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Hoosier Huddle. I'm actually back for this episode. It's been Joe and Amon having to hold it down while I've been gone. So, because drinking and other legal activities take precedence. Being 100% honest, we'll put it that way. But gents, how are y'all doing tonight?
I mean, we have our fearless leader back, and people don't have to listen to me as much.
I think Joe's frozen with excitement.
What? Am I really frozen?
Not for me.
Oh, there we go.
I was gonna say I should be good now. I said we have our fearless leader back, so I mean, everything should be good now, right?
Hypothetically, it should be.
We'll see. Back.
Right. Alrighty, so let's go ahead and hop into it. So obviously, everybody's talking about the different coaching vacancies that happened. We saw yesterday that David Culley got fired, everything like that. Another place that's actually open is Denver. And Joe, you actually brought this up that the Broncos ownership is potentially wanting to send, you said Elway is wanting to send Manning in two different groups, and which one would fans want? So is it going to be Manning is going to be in charge, or is it going to be a split thing between him and Elway, or?
Well, I mean, the report's out, and follow Woody Page, of course, of ESPN fame, if you want to be up to date on all this information. But there's rumors in the league that there's upwards of 10 different buyer groups, and a lot of people thought that maybe Elway and Manning would go in together on one group because the money, the power, the prestige. But reports are right now that there's a group headlined by Peyton Manning and his investors, and then also John Elway and his investors. If you remember, Elway was brought in to run football ops by the late Pat Bowlen, stuff like that. So he has more clout in that organization than anybody. But I think that there's not a way that they're going to come together. These are two different guys who have ideas of the way of the franchise and the people that they're involved with. I think that Elway is a more homegrown, we're going to keep it in the family and things are going to stay the same. And Manning is like, this is an investment. And I think there's two different paths. So I don't see them working together.
I can see that. Amon, what do you think?
Yeah, I think you make up a great point. For John Elway, this is kind of his franchise, right? Drafted here, won 2 Super Bowls here, went to 3 more, head of football operations for a while, went to a couple Super Bowls, won a Super Bowl. And, he remembers the Broncos owner saying this one's for John, right? So I think he holds that very dear to his heart. He's not going to want to go away from what the Broncos have been. While for Peyton Manning, while he has been here, this isn't where he was drafted, right? That's not where he made his name. His name was made in Indianapolis. So if he goes to invest in this franchise, it's like Dwayne Wade taking partial ownership of the Utah Jazz. Yeah. It's like, okay, I have some ownership, but it's not my home, right? It'd be more if he got the Miami Heat, similar to if Peyton Manning were to go get Indianapolis Colts ownership, that would be somewhat similar. So I don't think they're going to come together because, again, John is going to want to keep it very, very tight to the Broncos past, and for Peyton Manning, just going to be, okay, let's just whatever we can do financially is just get it done. It's just two different eye sets. I don't think they'll align.
See, I can kind of see that, but I don't know. To me, I look at Peyton Manning with Denver really the way you look at Tom Brady when he went to Tampa Bay. Like, Tom has integrated himself so quickly and so deeply into the Tampa Bay franchise and really kind of revitalized that franchise into being contenders again. Same with Peyton Manning and what he did with Denver. So I think realistically, I think it would actually be good for Denver if John Elway was like, you know what, I'm going to let Peyton Manning kind of run everything as far as like being a general manager, having some type of hand, because John Elway himself even admitted, I can't draft a quarterback to save my life. With the exception of them being tall and like a broom, he can't draft a quarterback. So, and to be honest, we haven't really seen what Peyton Manning wants to do next after being a player. There's a lot of people thought, okay, maybe he'll be a coach. Maybe he'll be Maybe he'll be an offensive coordinator. Maybe he'll be a head coach. Maybe he'll do
General
like what he's
manager.
wanting. Huh?
Yeah. A general manager. There was rumors that Tennessee, before they hired their recent general manager, he was going to be the general manager in Tennessee. I mean, it's
Tennessee. There was even reports that he might go be the general manager for the Bears just because he has some ties in Chicago. So I mean, to me, if I'm Denver, you already have a lot of core pieces there to work with. Really, the only thing, and I think a lot of us said it throughout a majority of last season, even with Teddy Bridgewater as the quarterback, Denver is really just a quarterback away from being a contender again. So I mean, John, quarterbacks are not your specialty. You are a quarterback, but quarterbacking is not your specialty. Why not bring in Peyton? What really more do you have to lose? Because right now, the current path you're heading, you're still going to be third or fourth in the division, depending on what Las Vegas and LA does. You're still going to be bottom of the division. So what really does it hurt by bringing in Peyton and saying, hey, why don't you help me try to run my franchise?
I actually think it's smarter if John steps away from it. I think he wants to drive up the price. I do think he wants to be a real God's honest owner of that franchise. But if I'm him, the better play is actually to let Peyton Manning take over. John should fight like hell for the job, but in the end, bow out gracefully and let Peyton take it over, because John's always going to be synonymous with the Broncos. Doesn't matter who the owner is. Like, it's John freaking Elway. Come on. Yeah. So even if Peyton does become the controlling owner, Peyton went there because of Elway. Let's not sugarcoat it. Like, he chose them over San Francisco, some other teams, because John Elway was the pitch man. So John will always be affiliated with the Broncos. But you become the owner and you're not successful and you can't figure the quarterback out, then you start to get some slings and arrows tossed your way. But if Peyton Manning is the owner and John has the job of, I don't know, the food and beverage guy, like from Casino or something, like whatever his job is, he then escapes all of the negativity that followed him before he got Peyton Manning and after, where it was like, well, you can't draft a quarterback. Well, you can't do this. Now you just get to bask in the glow of being the Denver Broncos' greatest quarterback of all time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, I think the interesting thing about it is, how would this affect his current role, right? If he's as the head of football operations, can you be a part owner? If you are part of the ownership group, would you have to step that down? I think for John Elway, it's those questions too that come into a mix of if I want to continue to further in this pursuit of owning the Broncos, or if I'm just going to let Peyton Manning own the Broncos.
Yeah. Now my other question is so do you think that so we'll say hypothetically that John lets this happen, like Joe said, he fights for it but bows out gracefully. Peyton Manning, comes into control. Do you think, do you let Peyton, hey, this is going to be your first year. We'll let you pick the coach and, work with the coach as far as what you want to do for a quarterback search. And who do you think Peyton would go for when he's looking, and what do you think Peyton's looking for in a coach?
Wow. I mean, that's an excellent question. I think, again, there doesn't get any more smart football minds than Peyton Manning, but he's never run a personnel department. And by personnel, I mean coaching, all that stuff. Like, his backup quarterback was his luggage boy. So let's not pretend that Peyton Manning has always been about fostering relationships that didn't benefit him, like most great quarterbacks. Right. But this sale, they say, wants to get done by the 2022 season. So, okay, let's say it's a speedy process. Manning wins it. Even though he might not be the controlling owner, he's the main guy. He's the one you think of. Who does he go get as a coach? The easy answer is to say it's dependent on the quarterback. The two names right now, I know that you are not crazy about. The one is Nathaniel Hackett, the offensive coordinator for Green Bay, because of his ties to Aaron Rodgers. So if that's the quarterback you're going to go get, me personally, as soon as he was let go, the name that made sense to me was Brian Flores, because Brian Flores is somebody who, he is not going to bother himself with whatever ownership has going on in their first year. George Payton, who is their general manager, second-year general manager, is one of the most respected personnel guys in the league. If Flores is the guy, he's going to work with him. They're going to have a relationship, and all that other noise going on in the background, those guys are going to ignore. I don't care. We're going to get a quarterback. We're going to establish a culture. This is what we're doing. So I think Brian Flores is somebody who is a no-nonsense guy who can absolutely focus on football at all times, is a perfect hire for Denver.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. When I actually looked at the different coaching vacancies, I kind of ranked the 8 that are available right now. I have honestly the Broncos at number 2. mainly because the quarterback situation is what they need to look for. And when you look at the potential free agent market and you look at the draft, there's not a lot that they can work with. And I don't know if for Denver, is Denver prepared? Like, hey, it's not going to be this year. We might have to wait till next year before we can potentially get the guy that's going to be here for a little bit long term. Because if you look at the guys that are going to potentially be in free agency, Russ is maybe a name, a very strong maybe, but he's not released. He can be traded, but he's not released. Same with Aaron Rodgers. Obviously, like Joe said, there's a lot of reports that Hackett might become the head coach. And if he does, Aaron Rodgers will probably come with him. In which case, again, I don't really buy into Nathaniel Hackett just the same way as I don't buy into LaFleur, because again, they have Aaron Rodgers. It's hard to not look good when you have that type of quarterback. I can't even really say Peyton Manning, because Jim Caldwell has been a successful head coach in other places after Peyton Manning. There's been no coordinator since Aaron Rodgers has been the quarterback that they've gone and gotten another head coaching job or even another offensive coordinator position. The last two guys, one of them is the wide receivers coach for Vegas, and the other one is the Dallas Cowboys offensive line coach. Like, none of them have gotten another offensive coordinator job. So it's not them, it's Rodgers. So yeah, to me, I would say Brian Flores for sure, because you look at how he ended with Miami. There's a lot of turmoil between him and the general manager there. He didn't want Tua. He wanted Justin Herbert. Obviously, as we see now, that was a much better pick than Tua. Trying to give Tua everything that he actually deserves, because I don't feel like Tua has really been given a fair shot at all of this. But I do think Herbert is a better quarterback than Tua, and I don't think Flores really got the chance of, hey, I've established a great defense here. I put all the pieces together. Defensively, they were solid. It was just offensively, they needed a lot of work, except for whenever they had Ryan Fitzpatrick. And then the Miami Dolphins were crazy for whatever reason because of Ryan Fitzmagic. I know. Amon, what do you think, though?
Brian Flores made a lot of sense because, again, if you're thinking about Peyton Manning, who would he want to hire? He feels a lot like Tony Dungy. You know what I mean? In the sense, defensive guy, came up through the ranks in New England. And then you also talk about how Tony built a team in Tampa and then kind of got booted out because they felt they needed to go a different direction. Then went to India, won a Super Bowl. I feel like he would feel the same way about Brian Flores. He got kicked out of Miami because he didn't like Tua Tagovailoa. And he says, okay, come here. We'll go get you the quarterback that you want, our GM. He's going to work with you. He's not going to work against you. And that, again, Brian Flores just made a lot of sense. You could also look at an offensive guy. If he can sway Josh McDaniels to kind of come in his direction, I'm sure he wouldn't be opposed to that one as well. But Brian Flores is a clear-cut choice to be the head coach of the Denver Broncos.
Now, do you think McDaniels would go for round 2 in Denver? Because he was the head coach when Tim Tebow was there. And
that's the issue. That's the issue. I don't think you get him out in Denver again.
Another name that you brought up, Tony, if you want to kind of go the inverse of what of what Flores is, Jim Caldwell would be a great leader of that team. He is somebody who is Eddie steady, and he is not going to let anything around him bother him and bother that team. His success in Indianapolis and then afterwards in Detroit and let go and all that stuff. He's another name that seems to be catching fire in the circles of especially young teams looking for guidance. I think this is a nice blend of young and veteran teams. Matt Nagy can definitely not fix Tua. Get out of the comments, Mike. You're drunk. Go home. But Jim Caldwell is another one. I think Jacksonville should be looking at Jim Caldwell. I think Denver should be looking at anywhere where there's volatility right now. Like anywhere where you're just not sure what's going to happen. I mean, yeah, if you fire your coach, but like to me, Jim Caldwell in Minnesota doesn't work because Minnesota just seems like it's missing something, and I'm not sure that's Jim Caldwell. But a team like Denver, who with ownership and all this stuff can be kind of thrown in a whirlwind, that's where you need it. Jacksonville makes a lot of sense. The Bears, I don't wish that Giants job on anybody, but Jim Caldwell's another one that I think makes a lot of sense in Denver.
Yeah, I'll honestly, I'm going to throw out 2 names out there that I think would be a really good pair. And I think for Denver would actually give them a very competitive chance. I would say Jim Caldwell as the head coach. And I would say Lovie Smith as the defensive coordinator. Because, I mean, you look at what Lovie did with the Texans defense. Lovie is a very well-respected defensive coach. And look at all the talent Lovie would have to work with there in Denver. I mean, you have a great pass rush, you have good linebackers, and you have a good secondary. I mean, You put those two coaches together, Jim doing the offensive side, Lovey doing the defensive side, that'd be a very scary and formidable Denver team. I'm going to throw out another crazy thing there. Mike's going to be a big fan because this is Mike's boy. And I'm actually going to ask you guys as a question, who would you rather have as your quarterback if you're the Denver Broncos? Would you rather have Teddy Bridgewater, or would you potentially go out, make a trade for, say, like a Mitch Trubisky to get you over until you potentially find someone better?
Amon, I feel like I'm going to have a heart attack, so you go ahead and answer first, sir.
Teddy Bridgewater, not
Really?
not a question for me. I look, Teddy Bridgewater, I think is a little bit more stable. Might get a little bit more injured, but I know more what I'm gonna get. Mitch Trubisky, I could get a game where he throws 3 touchdowns and a game where he throws 3 picks, and then he could do it in a half, and then I just have no idea. At least with Teddy, at least I know he's not gonna lose me the game. Might not win me it, but he's not gonna lose me that game. With Mitch, he could do any on any given Sunday.
Mitchell Trubisky in his wildest dreams wishes that he could have Ryan Tannehill's career. That's really his arc, and that's what he's wishing. He's wishing that he's just this guy who was underutilized in another place, was basically given away in the scrap heap, and will go on to have success at the next stop. Now, that stop wasn't in Buffalo because they have a franchise quarterback, but he's looking for somewhere. This bothers me because on our pod, we actually have an award named the Bridgewater after Teddy Bridgewater. So this hurts my soul to even think about. My answer is Teddy, but somebody should take a flyer on Mitch, if only as a backup, if only as to see, like, you never know what happens. We saw Tyler Huntley in Baltimore almost get Baltimore to the playoffs with Lamar Jackson going out. Like, if if Trubisky goes to like New Orleans and can actually be an actual quarterback version of Taysom Hill, like, isn't that kind of something that makes sense? I'm not sure Denver's the spot. So I get what you're saying, Tony, but I'm not sure that Denver is that exact spot. But I would absolutely take Teddy Bridgewater.
Okay. All right. So we're going to move on from the NFL. We're actually going to go into college a little bit. So we saw the wide receiver from Alabama, Williams. He got hurt. More than likely, he's going to be a first rounder. Who do you think makes the most sense currently, looking at all the draft picks as far as taking Williams goes?
Amon, you're the draft guru.
Oh man, to be quite honest with you, I think it's gonna be a defensive field draft. I don't see that receiver getting taken too incredibly high. But if we're looking at Jameson Williams before the injury, you're talking about him as probably being the first receiver off the board, and that to me, goodness gracious, you could talk about man, I'm just not sure who I'm looking at it to take a receiver that high. I know there's teams out there, but I feel like there's just bigger fish to fry for a lot of the teams sitting in the top 6. I don't see anywhere from 1 through 6 taking one. Man.
I'll be honest. I already, when I first saw this question, I immediately thought of one team in particular that I think would go out and get him because they need him. They need another wide receiver on the opposite of the one that they took last year. That's Philly. Philly needs another wide receiver on the opposite side of Devontae Smith, and what better than another Alabama receiver? Maybe somebody that Jalen doesn't necessarily have full chemistry with, but they need somebody on the other side of Devontae Smith. Jalen Reagor, to me, is a bust. I think pretty much everybody, whether you're a fan of one of the NFC East teams, whether you just don't like the Philadelphia Eagles or what, I think we can all agree Jalen Reagor was an absolute bust. I think they really reached when they picked him. I was really surprised when they did. I was like, who is this kid? Why are you picking the kid out of TCU? Like, you had Justin Jefferson still on the board. What are you doing? Like, but that's, to me, that's probably one of the teams. I think too, if Detroit wasn't so depleted everywhere, I would say Detroit very well too, because even though Amon-Ra St. Brown is becoming a very good household name in Detroit, they need another big receiver there, because to me, Amon-Ra St. Brown is a number 1 for Detroit because that's all they've got. Put in a guy like Williams, a little bit more of a kind of, okay, now they have a legitimate young wide receiver core that they can build around. Can they get a quarterback though? Because to me, Jared Goff is not the guy. But I also see Detroit thinking too, defensively, we need to be able to get after the quarterback. Our offensive line is average to above average. We have a good running back in DeAndre Swift. Why they released Kerryon Johnson, I'll never know. They just need a quarterback and they need to fix the defense. But that's me.
So if you're Philadelphia, do you take him at 15 on that pick that you got from Miami, or do you try and get him later in the first round from your actual pick for that team?
Aren't they sitting at 16? Don't they have 15 and 16?
No, they have 15. I'm sorry, the 15 and 16. You're right. So 15. so 15 or because there's another team I have in mind, but would you take him at 15, 16, or with your own pick if you think he gets that late?
Nope, that's not the one. Is this it? Nope, that's not the one I wanted to share. Dang it.
Well, yeah, I'll give you while you're finding that, Tony. I'll give you my answer. Yeah, the first thing that popped into my mind was Philadelphia because they have 3 first-round picks. So I think we can all agree that Williams is probably a top 5 to 7 pick in this draft if he's healthy. I just think because people see what those Alabama receivers can do, and with Smith having that great rookie year, and Alabama players in general, I think are getting that little bit of bump where maybe aside from the defensive players, the offensive players weren't drafted as high, but now we're starting to see some of those offensive guys produce at the next level, like Najee Harris, Devonta Smith, Mac Jones, things of that sort. So if you argue that he was maybe a 5 to 7 range guy, or maybe even higher, depending on how the draft plays out with the lack of high-level quarterbacks, the New York Jets have 2 picks in the top 10 at number 4. Now, you don't take him at number 4. Even if he's healthy, I don't think you take him at number 4. But would I take a flyer on a guy at number 10 who could have, arguably, he could be the 3rd best player in the draft? If you want to talk about it, I mean, whoever you like at DN, there's the Amon, who's the offensive lineman from Alabama?
Evan Neal.
Evan Neal. So if you argue that Neal's the best or 2nd best player, I'm sure you could argue a healthy Jameson Williams going into the draft is projected as the 3rd best player or 4th best player in the draft. So if you're the Jets and you solidify that offensive line, get a defensive player at number 4, or trade up to get somebody, you're sitting there at 10. I think taking Jameson Williams at 10 makes a lot of sense. You can stuff him for a year. If he does come back healthy, you can play him at the end of the year. He starts the season on PUP, whatever happens. But I think it's a gamble that the Jets have to do. The Jets are an organization that need all the help they can get with high-level talent. You're not going to get a guy like Jameson Williams on your lap very often. You have 2 first-round picks. You are investing in the long term. It's not a one-year turnaround. Does anybody think if the Jets nail their draft class that they're in the playoffs next year? No, probably not. So you need to build for the future. So to me, at number 10, it makes perfect sense for Williams.
Yeah, and now that I look at it, I can honestly see the Giants taking him at 5 or 7, either one. And I say that mainly because if you look at it, New York has to really completely strip the offense of what they had. They've already said they're not going to bring back Shepard. They're not going to bring back Slayton. They're going to keep Golladay just because they paid him a crap ton of money.
They have to.
He didn't get a single receiving touchdown. One of their offensive linemen has one, but Kenny Golladay didn't get one for the whole damn season.
Or Kadarius Toney, their first wide receiver.
So if you got to think, if they're going to build around Golladay and Toney, why not bring in Williams? Because, Toney's already kind of showed he's a little bit banged up quite a bit. Galladay's kind of the same way, and you're paying Golladay a crap ton of money, and as of right now, he's not living up to the hype, which, again, I kind of said, even though I was upset Detroit didn't sign him, when I looked into it, it's like, you have to look at a franchise like Detroit. Like, Detroit knows that they're hurting for good players, and they let Golladay walk. They were like, we're not even going to offer him money. Like, that says a lot when Detroit says we're not going to deal with you. No.
Well, remember, Detroit has another first-round pick also. They have the Rams' first-round pick, which is in the playoffs. So the Rams don't even have one. Can I ask you this, Tony? Which of the playoff teams, if he falls to the back half of the first round, aside from Philadelphia, who we know already has early picks, and aside from Detroit because they have the Rams pick, of the playoff teams, who's a team that should snatch him for the future?
New England.
100%. I was right there with you.
And I know y'all are both Patriots fans, so I know that makes you happy. But being honest, you have to think about it. And you guys as Patriots fans, tell me, when was the last time Bill Belichick drafted a successful wide receiver?
I'd like a lifeline, please.
Exactly.
Julian Edelman. Julian Edelman, are you there? Seventh round,
Right.
2009, maybe.
Right.
You know,
And I
there's
mean,
another sneaky team that should take him if that happens. There's
Yeah.
one that's looking right at us, so we would never think of it. It's the Chiefs.
Oh, goodness gracious.
It's the
honestly,
Chiefs.
actually, there is another team that you could probably throw out there, and it's the one right before New England, and that's Pittsburgh.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
They only
Pittsburgh
re-signed
could definitely
Juju
take one.
Smith-Schuster for 1 year.
Yep.
They have Deontay Johnson. They have Chase Claypool. But I mean, are you really going to trust either one of them as your? And again,
No.
New England kind of proved you don't necessarily need a number one wide receiver. You really don't.
Yeah.
But if you're not going to go that route, you need to at least have 2 or 3 solid, what we would probably consider number 2 guys that would be able to actually go and be able to win you some games, get you some good stats, et cetera, et cetera. So I think Pittsburgh would be another one of them, but I could definitely see the Chiefs, especially considering Tyreek Hill's getting older. He may have one more contract in him. Same with Travis Kelce. They have good receivers as far as Nicole Hardman. I don't know why they signed Josh Gordon. I think that was just a pity thing for him, to be honest.
Just say, if you work, you work.
Honestly, and if he continues to drop, I would say Buffalo too. Because think about it, their wide receivers are old. Cole Beasley
Diggs is older than
yeah.
you think, yeah.
Diggs is older. Beasley's older. Emmanuel Sanders is what, 33, 34?
Yeah, 1 year deal. Yep.
Yeah. So I mean, why not kind of start to bring in that youth and bring in somebody that can be Josh's, main target for, 4, 5, 6 years down the road. So Buffalo would be another one I could see possibly snatching him up if he falls that deep.
The worst
I think
thing
at 18 is interesting too. New Orleans at 18 because
Yeah.
you don't know what Mike Thomas's situation is. You're stuck in salary cap. So if you can dump some of that and get whoever the heck your quarterback's going to be in 2022 or a receiver and Sean Payton another weapon, you might got something going.
I think the biggest thing that Philadelphia would love if he made it to 15 and 16, because at 16, they're absolutely opening up the floodgates and saying, give us your best offer, because they're going to get something. They're going to get a pick next year, a first or a second rounder next year for one of those teams that we just talked about that wants to leapfrog in front of New Orleans and possibly Pittsburgh and teams like that.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And again, depending on how far he would fall, and I don't think he would ever fall this far, but if he gets to Tennessee or Green Bay, I could easily see them also sweeping him up.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Tennessee definitely needs another guy on the other side of AJ Brown.
Mhm.
Julio, I think, unfortunately, is at least washed up, or he doesn't mesh well within the Tennessee system. And then obviously, well, I know Green Bay's not going to do it, but Green Bay needs to do everything they can to try to keep Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay. And what better way to do that than to sign Devontae Adams, because Devontae Adams can technically be like, no, I'm out. I'm going to go somewhere else.
Mhm.
And if you're able to get him another receiver on the other side that's not, Allen Lazard or Marvez Valdez-Scantling, because both of them are solid for Green Bay, but trash anywhere else that they would go.
And if not, then you're getting an asset for Jordan Love to throw to in the future if
Yeah.
those guys are out of there.
You know what? I can't wait for the Jordan Love era to start. When I watch the Lions game, I can't wait. Can't wait for the fall of Green Bay. It's going to be great.
Tony and Mike are mind melding as we speak.
That's the bad part. It's not even because I grew up watching the Bears a lot and I like the Bears. It's just having been married to a Packers fan, and then I hear all these Packers fans like, "Oh my God, we're great!" And then Aaron Rodgers goes away, and Green Bay is one of the worst teams you can ever find. Gone. I'm like, yeah, I'm so ready for Jordan Love.
Glad you're not bitter about it.
Not
yeah, as long as
not
it's nothing
like-
sour.
No, not the 2016 divisional playoffs.
Yeah.
57 damn seconds left. No, never bitter about that. Never at all.
Well, at least we know what caused the divorce.
Right.
Just so you know, Des caught it. It's in the divorce decree.
Hey, yeah. When did they come out with that? They came out with that, was it 3 or 4 years ago? They were like, yeah, actually, now we look at it, Des caught it. I'm like,
It was
yeah.
like 2 years ago. Yeah, they said.
Yeah.
Well, under the new rules, he would have. Yeah.
He would have actually caught it.
He
Yeah.
would have
Like,
actually
thank
caught
you.
it.
Thank you for this useless piece of information.
Right. It was the same with the Calvin Johnson catch, because I think that's kind of what started it.
It was.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was playing against the Bears, and then they're like, no, it wasn't a catch. He didn't hold on to it. Like, no, he caught it.
It's like
He did. He caught it.
He caught it. If we're playing
Yeah.
backyard football, he caught it. That's just what it is.
Right.
It's like when you have an awesome dunk and then you hang on the rim and they give you a technical and you like lose the dunk. You're like, wait a minute, no, it's cool. Like it still counts. Like we know what happened, right?
Well, it's like whenever we see the look at the Bears versus who was it against the Seahawks or the Steelers where it was the Steelers where he got the taunting call because he was standing there. It's like really.
Cassius Marsh.
Yeah, Cassius Marsh. Yeah, I'm like,
yeah.
This NFL officiating, I need them to do better. I get it, they're human.
Hey, Carenti's retiring, man. Carenti's retiring.
He's not the only issue I'm on. Come on.
Yeah,
I know he's not, but at least that one, you know.
Like that's the bad part. I feel like all of these like major big name refs that we kind of grew up with and grew up watching, like since all of them have retired, all these new refs are just like, I'm gonna make a name for myself. Yeah. I'm gonna be different. Let's try this. Yeah, can't stand it. All right, so obviously it's a big weekend this weekend. We have what, six playoff games going on this weekend?
Playoff games, 2 on Saturday, 3 on Sunday, and 1 on Monday, which is
one on right. Well, ESPN they gotta get in there too.
They gotta milk it in there somewhere.
Of course. So I'm gonna bring up because ESPN is dying. They gotta bring up something at this point. All right, so here is our matchups that we have. Amon, I'm going to go with you first. Who's going to be your winner for each of these different games? So whichever one you want to start with.
I'm going to start with the one that's going to hurt me the most. I think Buffalo's going to beat New England at home. Yeah, I know, not a popular pick. Pride kind of disowned me as a Patriots fan this morning, but it's just I feel they can't make the same mistakes twice. I just think they have a little bit more talent all around. I think the Bengals beat the Raiders. I think the Bucks handle business and beat the. Oh, I missed another AFC playoff game. How about that? Yeah, I didn't even think about it because the Chiefs are going to be the Steelers. Does anyone have any questions about that one? I feel like we all know that Big Ben's retirement ceremony is happening at Arrowhead Stadium. But then I think the Bucks handle business against the Eagles. It can be windy all at once. Tom Brady doesn't mind. Then you have, I think the Niners actually go and beat the Dallas Cowboys. I think Jimmy G's coming off a hot week. And I don't know. I just think the Cowboys somehow, some way they let you down. I just don't. I think that Deebo Samuel is going to get the best of the matchup against Trayvon Diggs. He might get a pick here, but I think Deebo will have 3 touchdowns before that happens. And I think the Rams, they're going to run the football. And I trust them a little bit more than the Cardinals. So I got the Rams to beat the Cardinals in that matchup as well.
Okay. What about you, Joe? Who do you got?
Well, I learned English left to right, top to bottom. So Amon likes to skip around and do whatever matchup.
I didn't even see the
Chiefs.
Start
right. No. I didn't interrupt you, sir. You don't interrupt me now. Manners. Let's start with the Chiefs and Steelers. Again, like Amon said, I mean, the Chiefs, unless that defense just plays to like 3 years ago levels, I just don't see how Pittsburgh can win this. So I take the Chiefs in a rout. I actually think Bucks and Eagles is going to be a little bit closer than people think. I'm not going to call for the upset, but if this game is tied or if the Eagles are winning in the fourth quarter, I won't be shocked. But I will take the Bucks just out of experience, but I think it's going to be a wake-up call, same as it was last year against Washington. I'm going to take the Patriots over the Bills. I just think it's really hard to beat Belichick twice in a season. Brian Flores did it, and he got fired, so we know what's going to happen to Sean McDermott if he beats Bill Belichick. We can just guarantee that he's going to get fired, so good luck. But on a serious note, I just think the Patriots – they are out there starting left tackle. I think that this is going to be a game where they're really challenged on depth, even on defense. But I think they're going to find ways. And Mac Jones, you draft him in the first round. He's got to make plays, good or bad. He's made some bad ones lately. I think he can make some good ones. And I think the Patriots are going to upset the Bills. The next game, 49ers at Cowboys. Sorry, Tony, I'm going to have to side with them on here. I know you're a Cowboys fan, and you're going to yell at us here in about 2 minutes. But I'm going to pick the 49ers. And I think this is going to be a game where you see the Cowboys defense struggle with tackling. I just think something that they do is they get caught in misdirection, which is the thing the 49ers probably do best. Whether Deebo Samuel throws the ball, catches the ball, or runs the ball, he's an asset. George Kittle, I'm not sure you want to put Micah Parsons on him, then your pass rush isn't as good. But I also think you don't want to put Trayvon Diggs on him because then you have Deebo Samuel open. So I think it's going to be a chess match. I really like the Shanahan versus Quinn matchup. I just think Shanahan is just a little bit better when it comes to these. So I'm going to take the 49ers. I'm going to take the Bengals to wax the floor with the Raiders. I actually think this might be the biggest blowout of the first round. I just think the Bengals right now have something about them. I think that they're not afraid of anybody. They went toe-to-toe with the Chiefs. They've won some really good games. They've lost some dumb games, but they know what they can be. And right now, I think Jamar Chase is on a level where people are just like, he's just thinking, they can't touch me. They can't stop me. Put 2 guys on me. I'm going to beat them, because that's what he's been doing. And the last game, I actually have the Cardinals upsetting the Rams. I just think the Rams are – I think they're a paper dragon. And I'm not sure that they can cover Kyler Murray. If Kyler Murray is going to have a game that is going to solidify him going into next season as a top quarterback, this is going to have to be it. And that Rams defense gave up a 17-point lead against the division opponent. I don't think they're going to get up 17 points on the Cardinals. I see the Cardinals winning this one pretty easily.
Okay. So I'm going to kind of do the same thing as Joe. We'll do left to right. Like kind of like you guys said, first things first with Steelers and the Chiefs. Big Ben, it's time for you to retire. Time for you to go away. Had a great career. Sorry, it's going to end in a very, very bad way in a away stadiums. That sucks to suck. And then Bucks versus Eagles. I kind of agree. I think because when they were looking at the weather report, I guess the weather's not supposed to be great down in Tampa while this game is going on. And I think for Tampa, we've already kind of seen them struggle a lot in the passing game because that's what has been their bread and butter. I think they're projecting Leonard Fournette is hopefully going to be back for this game, which if that does, that will help them in the run. But what has really been Philly's big success that they've been able to do all year and that has gotten them to this point, they were great at running the ball. So I kind of agree with Joe. I think this will be a very close game. I think this is going to be the type of game that comes down to like a field goal to who wins it, or just whoever happens to have the ball last. I could definitely see an upset there. I think I think the Bucks will pull through. I don't think the Eagles are good enough to do that. But being 100% honest, I wouldn't be surprised if the Eagles shock them and, sneak a victory in there. Bills and the Patriots. This is another one. There's a lot of people that are projecting an upset on this one. And I can kind of see it. It's going to be cold. It's going to be really crappy weather. Kind of the same thing. Same thing when they first played and Mac Jones threw 3 passes. I honestly, I think if you're Bill Belichick, that's probably your best way to protect Mac. And not saying that Mac is going to be one of these kids that, he's not going to make the stupid decision. He's not going to force the ball. He's not going to, throw a needless pick or anything like that, trying to, push the ball down the field. But honestly, we've seen Buffalo really struggle this year. We've seen them struggle a lot offensively. We've seen them struggle a lot defensively. So I'm actually going to take the Patriots in an upset over the Bills. I know y'all, I figured y'all would probably appreciate that.
One's dead to us. We don't care. Keep going.
Cowboys and Niners. So yeah, this is the one that everybody has pretty much said is going to be an upset. I do agree. If you look at Dallas throughout the majority of the year, they were 6-0 against their division. It's the NFC East. Is there really a single good team in the NFC East? No.
Philly's a playoff team, but I get your point.
Right. They dropped 50 on basically the Phillies backups. They dropped 41 on their starters, but that was when Dak was playing at his best, et cetera, et cetera. They dropped 50 on Washington, but Washington is basically non-existent. And then of course, New York is just hot garbage. Now the 49ers, on the other hand, they've actually played a lot of contending teams, and they even beat the Rams last week, which now, to the Rams' discredit, the Rams have fallen off for whatever reason. The Rams and Dallas, to me, kind of mirror each other. They started off so hot, they were like, nobody is going to be able to have to play these people if they go into the playoffs, et cetera, and then they've just taken a total just slump crap afterwards. I do agree, because being a Dallas fan, whenever they face a non-conventional team that does a lot of wildcat plays, does a lot of trick plays with like Debo, obviously George Kittle's going to be a big factor in this. The thing that does kind of give me hope is the fact that Jimmy G is the starting quarterback, because San Francisco is going to want to run the ball. Now they can do that against Dallas. It's not hard, but that is going to limit them if Dallas is able to figure out how to at least mitigate or stuff the runs, and then you're going to have to force the ball into Jimmy G's hands, which to me doesn't always lead to success. I could definitely see the 49ers getting it. They played a better schedule. Dallas actually, let's see, if we look technically at the schedule, Dallas only beat 2 of the teams that are in the playoffs currently because they lost to the Bucks, they lost to the Cardinals, they beat the Patriots, but they lost to the Chiefs, and they lost to the Raiders. So they lost to a majority of the teams that are in the playoffs already just in the regular season. Bengals and Raiders, I kind of agree. I think Cincy will run away with this. I think they'll get their first playoff win since 1991, before texting was even an actual thing. So Bengals will be so excited just to hear that, they finally have a win in the modern day era. Because I agree. I think with the Raiders kind of got the short end of the stick. They played Sunday Night Football. Their defense was actually on the field for almost 90 snaps throughout that entire game. And then you get a Saturday game, so you get one less day on top of having to travel, and you have to go up against Joe Burrow, Joe Mixon, Jamar Chase, and T. Higgins, and really a Bengals defense that has been crazy as far as exceeding expectations, far from what anybody thought. I agree. I think the Bengals kind of run away with this, even though the Raiders are going to try, but once that defense crumbles, it's just going to be game over. And the Rams versus Cardinals, to me, I think this one is actually going to be the most disappointing of the matchups. And I say this because if you look at it, Matt Stafford has struggled all year. He's kind of reverted back to like Detroit Matt Stafford, even though he's probably has the best setup personnel around him. And I think he was forcing it to Cooper Kupp a little bit too much. I think he kind of thinks of Cooper Kupp like he did Megatron, like, F it, I'll throw the ball up and somebody will get it type thing. And you can do that when you have, Megatron, because Megatron will go get the ball. Can't really do that with Cooper Kupp. Cooper Kupp's he's not that guy. Great wide receiver, fantastic wide receiver, not Megatron level. They abandoned the run too quickly. And then the Cardinals, with Cliff Kingsbury as your head coach, and the fact that you started out 10-2. You're 1-4 in your last 5 games, and your one win was because you made less mistakes than Dallas. Like, what are you doing, Arizona? What are you doing? So,
still not bitter.
Huh?
Still not bitter.
I'm really not bitter. Like that was just the game where Dallas, for lack of better terms, Dallas shit the bucket. Like I don't know how else you want me to put it. And I'm really not bitter at them for that, but it's like it's sad because, again, of the expectations that we had of Arizona. Again, they were the same way. They started out so hot. They lost to Green Bay. Then they turn around. They lost to the Panthers. They kind of started to get their groove back, and then they've just hit a total slump ever since. Kyler Murray doesn't look like the same quarterback he does in the first half of the season. And we even saw this last year. They started out really hot, and then they just completely dropped, and they actually missed the playoffs last year. So, yeah, to me, I have the Rams moving forward. I have the 49ers moving forward, unfortunately, in an upset. I have the Bucks moving forward, the Chiefs, the Patriots, and the Bengals.
I have a question for you, Tony, and for you too, Amon. If the Cardinals flame out in this game, like let's say the Rams come out and they play that dominant football that they've played at times this year, could you see a coaching change in Arizona? I mean, it's not out of the realm of possibility. We've seen it in the NBA. I mean, was it Dwayne Casey, coach of the year for the Raptors? Yeah. Then they replaced him. I mean, it has happened before. We talked about Jim Caldwell earlier. But if we talked about second half swoons, if they just go in and they lay an egg against the Rams, could we see a change in Arizona?
I would think so. And to be honest, depending on how this game goes and how the other team searching for coaches go, I can think of 2 names I would actually like to see in Arizona and I think could succeed very well. Jim Caldwell is one of those names. And another one, he got fired year before last, didn't coach this year, Doug Peterson. I think Doug Peterson would actually do decently well with Kyler Murray as his quarterback. He has a very good foundation there. He has a lot of good young talent. And Doug Peterson left Philadelphia with a winning record and got them to a Super Bowl. So, I mean,
won them Super Bowl, unfortunately.
Huh?
Won them Super Bowl, unfortunately.
I know, as Patriots fans, and it was funny. It's not funny. As I was
It's not
watching
funny.
a sports show today, they had brought that up, the fact that there was two things. A, the fact that Tom Brady didn't catch the ball in that Super Bowl still haunts him to this day, and I'm like, really, dude? Like, just you have 7 rings, just let it go, my guy, let it go. And then the fact that he didn't shake Nick Foles' hand after that Super Bowl, and apparently when last year when
They
the
lost to
Bears,
the Bears.
yeah, when they lost to the Bears, he didn't shake Nick Foles'
Shake
hand
his
either.
No,
So we're like, do you just not like Nick Foles, or
I
what?
think Tom
What did
Brady hates Nick
do?
Foles.
Right? It's just like, man, screw this guy.
he keeps beating me, and it's just not fun.
I know he looks like a Napoleon Dynamite if he didn't have an afro.
Come on, if Nick Foles beat you in life, you also would not shake his hand. You would also.
Oh
hate
no,
Nick
probably
Foles.
not. 100%. I don't know if I shake his hand right now. You take a Super Bowl away from Tom Brady. I don't know
I
if I shake
wouldn't.
Eli Manning's hand.
No, he took it away from the Patriots. Let's stop that narrative. First off, he took it from the Patriots.
Took away
He
from
didn't take it from Tom
Patriots.
Brady.
Sorry.
He took it
Took
from
away
the
from
Patriots.
everybody.
Come on.
It is funny, and I'll say this being a fan of the NFC East, the fact that the NFC East is now considered probably one of the worst divisions, and the only division to
do it.
ever defeat Tom
Don't
Brady
do it.
3
Don't do
times
it.
in the Super Bowl
Don't do
are
it.
all
Don't do it.
from the NFC
Don't say it.
East.
Don't finish.
Tony,
You
this
did
is
it.
your show. You do the graphics. You can kick me out at any moment. You do that again, we're gonna fight.
Now, I also want to point out another thing. The only division to stop Buffalo's 4 consecutive Super Bowl runs and wins,
Yeah,
all from the NFC East.
yeah. Washington Giants and
And
Cowboys.
Dallas
yeah.
twice.
Yeah.
The AFC East just has a problem with the NFC East. That's just what it's coming across.
It really is. And the NFC East is the only division that has a Super Bowl winner in every team. Philly finally broke that. So
Yeah,
thank goodness
yeah,
for
they
Philly.
did. You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow,
They're only-
that's kind of depressing.
right? You got to think the division that's absolutely just crap now. Dallas
It's
has
the most
5,
historically
New York
great
has
one.
4, Washington has 3, and Philly
Wait a
has
minute.
1.
Hold on. Wouldn't the AFC West? I don't know. The Chargers never won. Yeah, I
Chargers
guess.
never
No,
won,
no,
no.
Chargers
They've
never
been
got
to
it.
they've been to 2. One of them they lost. Actually, one of them
Well,
they
the one
lost
they
to
lost
the
to San
49ers.
Francisco,
San
which was an
Francisco.
absolute stomping. Yeah.
I think they went to another one, but I can't.
But Dan Fouts and company, right?
I
Yeah,
can't
I
remember
think
if they
so.
made it to one or not. I'm thinking Eric Coryell. I can't think. I don't think they did, but I could be wrong. Please don't quote me on that.
Yeah, I think the second closest would. I think the second closest actually would be the NFC West, and the only team that would have to win one is Arizona, and then everybody in the NFC West would have one.
Would be the
Well,
AFC
the
West too, because the
AFC.
Raiders have won, the Broncos have won, and the Chiefs have won.
Yeah, so the
AFC
Chargers.
East, everyone's won except for Buffalo.
Yeah, Buffalo. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Miami, the Jets, everyone. We don't like to talk about the Jets one, but yeah, they did.
Right. Well, that was back when they had Joe Namath, so they actually had a quarterback. Ever since they're like,
They still didn't have a quarterback. He should not be in
Instead
the
of-
Hall of Fame. Do not get me started on this. Joe Namath should not be in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Period. Back.
Realistically, no, because you think about it, he has a losing record overall in his
Yeah,
career.
thanks.
He didn't have great statistics. It was just he was a man with a lot of big energy, as we'll put it, and he was a womanizer. So
The difference between Jonas Gray, the running back of the Patriots who ran for 200 yards on the Colts and then got cut, and Joe Namath winning 1 Super Bowl and not doing anything else on the football field is very thin. And I expect people to come for me on that one. Go ahead. I'm ready. Bring it to me.
although I'm not gonna lie, I say this even as a Cowboys fan. Eli Manning to me is not a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Mm-mm.
He's not a Hall of Famer, period.
No, I think he's a Hall of Famer. I
No.
will. No, now hear me out. Here's the reason why I say he's a Hall of Famer. He's top 10 all time in passing yards, top 10 all time in passing touchdowns, which that's something, right? That's statistics. That's something. He does have 2 Super Bowl rings, albeit I say he got those because he got carried by a run game and a defense, not because of Eli Manning being this phenomenal quarterback. Not saying that at all, but I also think he's going to get in just purely because of Big Brother and Dad.
Yeah, that's why he's gonna get it.
The Hall of Fame is a flawed entity as it is. All sports pro Hall of Fames are. They're a problem. I'm glad we only have 10 minutes left because I could go on this all night. But to me, this isn't about like the story of the game, because the story of the game includes good and bad. Like Jamarcus Russell and Ryan Leaf should then be in the Hall of Fame, because you can't talk about the all-time busts if you don't talk about them. So don't give me the narrative of the game.
Hey, they haven't made an NFL Hall of Fame for, you know, NFL busts, because that's hurtful. It's a new world. I need you to be politically correct, Joe.
I would like Freddie to be the vice president of that Hall of Fame. Let's get him right
The
now.
Hall of Shame with Freddie
Hall of
Henderson.
Shame. I nominate Freddie Henderson to be the NFL Hall of Shame.
I second.
Vice
I
president.
second.
I second. Let's put it to a vote. But no, listen, to me, of that class, Rivers is not a Hall of Famer. Manning is not a Hall of Famer, and Roethlisberger is. And I hate Ben Roethlisberger, and I don't like Steeler fans, but he's an absolute Hall of Famer, because everything you talked about the stats, I don't ever want to hear about passing stats when it comes to, oh, well, Phillip Rivers has more passing yards than Joe Montana. Well, duh. Look at the offense and the defense that he played in. Like, let's come on. Can we call it, like, we talk about Wilt Chamberlain's 50-point average, you know, in a season, and people are like, well, you just throw that out because it was an anomaly. Well, everything from like 2007 beyond is an anomaly, because the league flipped on itself. So, yeah, while impressive, I think what we're looking at now is more efficiency as opposed to just gaudy stats, especially with 17 games now.
Well, here's my question then. So, kind of what is, so I can see Phillip Rivers not being in the Hall of Fame. I can see that, kind of the same as I can see Tony Romo not going in the Hall of Fame too. I do agree with Big Ben. I think Big Ben will go in there. Again, even though I don't like Eli Manning and I don't think he should be a first ballot, really, if you look at it, he and Ben Roethlisberger had more winning seasons. He and Ben Roethlisberger have the same thing. They're both top 10 in the stats department for passing yards, touchdowns. They both have 2 rings. They both, you know, now Ben went to 1 more Super Bowl than Eli did. So Ben went to 3, but he won 2.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, really, so why kind of discredit Eli if you're in, but credit Ben when really their careers were like mirrored.
Because I think consistency matters. I think if you're going to take like a 20-year block, let's just take the NFL in 20-year blocks from 2000 to 2020. How many quarterbacks do we want to put in? How many are nice guys? I mean, I'm sure there's people out there who say Andrew Luck is a Hall of Famer because of what he could have been. But I'm sure there are people who will make that argument.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I'm sorry. It's just not like the Hall of Fame is not for guys that were really, really good that we liked. It's for the best of the best of the best. That if we were to wipe out the history of football, we cannot miss these players. And I'm sorry, Eli Manning is a player that I can miss. You want to talk about those Giants teams? More than welcome. You want to talk about the Corvette pass rush or whatever it was, where, you know, with the 4 linemen just rushing at one time. I can't remember what they called it. But like, that's fine. But like Eli Manning, I don't need the Eli Manning story in the history of the NFL. Like, I'm sorry that I am what I am. I am a Hall of Fame snob. I make no apologies about it.
Here to say, because when you brought that up, it did bring up kind of something interesting. Because I do agree with you. If we look at the last, we'll say 20 years, and we put a list of the top 10 quarterbacks the last 20 years, I'm not going to put this in any particular order because I refuse to put him at number 1. Brady will be on that list, but he is not number 1. So we'll have Manning. You know, you have Manning, you have Brady, you have Ben Roethlisberger. Technically, you have Aaron Rodgers. Those are probably your big 4 that everybody, for the most part, you know, those were the guys that all succeeded, all won a Super Bowl, at least one, right?
Probably Breeze, but I even think he's borderline.
Breeze, yeah, I could see Breeze, and Breeze probably more than likely because he also, you know, he's number 2 in pretty much all time in everything. Now, again, statistically, he's number 2. You could throw Brett Favre in there. Brett Favre's the one that kind of followed in Dan Marino's shoes. He set the quarterback standard for everything, and then everybody has come through since broken it. So really, that's 7. So if we're going to look at the top 10, you've got 3 more. You could argue Eli would take one of those last 3 spots. You could probably argue Rivers. And then really after that, if we're looking at longevity, if we're looking at the quarterbacks that were in the league for a long time and had sustained success, necessarily didn't win a Super Bowl, but had sustained success, you could probably even throw Carson Palmer in there. And I say that because Carson Palmer was successful with the Bengals and the Cardinals both.
Yeah. Here's
I
my
put Kurt Warner in before that.
Yeah, Kurt Warner is what you missed. So
Kurt Warner.
But here's my question. If Patrick Mahomes stopped playing football after this season, let's say he makes it to the AFC Championship game, and you could only put in Patrick Mahomes or Eli Manning. Who are you putting in? And before you say Patrick Mahomes, let me stop you. The answer is Patrick Mahomes.
But here's my question though. Here's kind of my question is really like why? And I say that because yes, for what he's been able to do, he's been able to do a lot of incredible things. He won a Super Bowl his technically third year in the league. Mm-hmm. He went to another one in his fourth, and now he's in his
MVP
fifth year.
in his second. Yeah,
right. So like really, yes, that's phenomenal. Your first 5 years you did that, but again, as Patriots fans, you had that with Brady. Mm-hmm. So like, is it really a Hall of Fame thing because he did it just because he did it so quickly? Because if you think about it, that's kind of average for the NFL. Like, okay, you get at least one Super Bowl depending on who you are. And I mean, the kid's still young. Now he's done a lot of fantastic things, but it's not like the kid has, gone out and like, oh yeah, he took 2 undefeated teams to a Super Bowl and won them. Like that's unrealistic and that's ridiculous expectations. To me, I would say Eli first because again, Patrick hasn't been in the league as long, and to me, Patrick really hasn't had to struggle. Like the first half of this season was really the only time we've seen Patrick really struggle. And how many quarterbacks can say, "Oh yeah, I struggled through like my first 7 games of a season finally in the 4 years out of 5 I've been officially playing in the NFL."
Champagne problems.
Exactly. First world problems. First world problems.
Again, I just think the whole Hall of Fame debate is just it's so frustrating. I did not like Terrell Owens. He was clearly a first ballot Hall of Famer. His attitude kept him out. People who will argue that Eli Manning, I'm not taking a shot at you, Tony, but people who argue that Eli Manning is a no doubt Hall of Famer probably never even heard of Kenny Stabler, for the Raiders who won multiple titles, who had to sit for, decades before he got in. So like, again, it's all nuance based and all that. And of course, Eli being on Monday Night Football now with his brother, that helps his case. And the fact, like you said, I mean, it's his dad and his brother. I mean, who's gotten more out of being a mediocre quarterback than Archie Manning? Like, you won the genetic lottery with 2 sons who made it to the NFL. And yeah, you went to a really crappy Saints team. But like, Archie Manning was like, okay. Like, whatever. Like, people talk about him like he was Jesus or something. It's like, well, Archie Manning, I tell you, if he didn't play in New Orleans, if he'd have been in Dan Marino's situation, well, guess what? Dan Marino didn't win a Super Bowl either. So he's better than Dan Marino. Like, come on.
Wow.
It's wild. The Manning family has that name, and once you got that name, it's all set in stone.
Yeah, and that's kind of why I feel bad for Archie Manning, Arch Manning.
Yeah.
Because if he doesn't live up to collegiate expectations, that poor kid is just never going to hear the end of it.
If he doesn't win a Super Bowl, then you will never hear the end of it, and that's crazy.
Right.
Yeah, like Dan Marino didn't win a Super Bowl, but if Arch does that, he ain't never going to hear the end of that.
Oh yeah. Well, like I said, that's why I say even in the collegiate level, because it's like you have to go win a national championship, but you better be damn good in college. There's a lot of really good college programs. You don't have to
make the playoffs.
Yeah, but you got to at least be consistent.
Yeah, Trevor Lawrence. Yeah, the Mannings are like the Kennedys. There are some people who just hold them to a higher level than anything, and there's nothing you could say. And unfortunately, John Kennedy would be Peyton Manning, and Robert Kennedy would be Eli Manning. Always the second brother, no matter what. So
right. Alrighty, gents. Well, this has been a great show. I've been having a blast coming back. Probably won't be here next week, just letting y'all know. I know. Can't keep me consistent. But hopefully everybody else enjoyed the show, though. You can catch us. You can catch the Hoosier Huddle as a whole Friday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central, and 5 p.m. Pacific. Thank you again to Amon and Joe for being here. Always a blast with you guys. Hope you all have a good night. Hopefully we have a good weekend playoffs for the NFL, and we will see y'all next week.
Go watch Amon's new show, Friday nights at 3.
Agreed.
Appreciate that.
Whole sports all plays. Yeah. Whole sports all plays. Whole sports all plays. 365, we making up plays. We talking the game, get you through the days. We're high in the court, the dime in the lane. Variety, topics, living the same. All presentation, sports information. Hitting the airways, taking the nation. Sport, all plays, like working your faces. Grace at the field, so tie the laces. All sports, all plays.